So a couple of quick things before we get started. I am kind of going through a bit of a cold or allergies or something, so I do sound a bit different than normal, and I have to try to speak up a bit more just so the microphone can capture me. Hopefully it sounds good. Secondly, for my returning viewers, you'll probably notice I'm not in my normal setup, my normal background. I am on a bit of a little mini vacation this Halloween weekend. I don't get paid from YouTube. I do have an actual 9 to 5 type of job. It's a very stressful job, so finally got some time away to just relax and enjoy, the time off. But I wanted to go into this video quickly to talk about Apple because it doesn't matter what time of year it is, you can never escape the release of new Apple products. And Apple did announce 3 new products this week. I don't know if they're going to announce any more for the rest of the week, but these products are all different Mac, and they all have some similarities and differences. And rather than doing one larger presentation like they normally do where they show all the new devices, all the new features, they did 3 smaller presentations. Each was about 12 to 15 minutes long, each one, I think. And it was different than what they usually do. You don't see the major executives like you normally do. No Tim Cook, no Craig Federighi, that kind of thing. And I want to go over each of these devices individually as well as the similarities and differences all together. So we'll go one by one at first, and then we'll compare all 3 at the end. I do have my Mac open here with a screen record to show you everything as I talk about it. So the first one they announced, I believe was on Monday, was the new iMac. And just a little side note, all these devices will of course have a M4 chip as well as the Apple Intelligence, and we just got the first wave of Apple Intelligence released on the iPhone. So if you have it, cool. If not, whatever. We're not going to get all the different features in one go. So it is going to be a bit of time before we have all the features of Apple Intelligence. But with that being said, first device here is the new iMac. Now, of course, if you are unaware, the iMac is that device that has the multiple colors you can choose from, whether you go for the silver, the blue, the purple, the orange, the yellow, or the green. I personally like the blue one myself. These iMacs are basically your all-in-one type of computer. There's no extra, desktop and monitor, that kind of thing. It's all in one device. And with that, basically any Apple product you get, for the most part, what you buy is what you get. You cannot make any changes or upgrades to the processor, the hard drive, the memory. It's just what you get is what you get, right? But with the iMac as the all-in-one, you do also have the included keyboard and mouse for the desktop. You don't need a spare monitor unless you want a 2-screen setup. But with the new iMac, there is a couple of things that they did include in this one. I'm not sure if they had these features in the other iMacs previously, but as I said, you do have different colors you can choose from. With the new M4 chip, you are supposed to get improved performance, whether it's productivity, whether it's having multiple tasks at a time, multiple different things you're trying to run, increased speed, that kind of thing. Just for comparison, I have a M1 Mac Mini from 2020, and I do have currently this one I'm using is an M1 MacBook Air. So we'll go over those stuff as well pretty soon. Of course, these devices, whichever one you buy, old or new, now has the iPhone mirroring, so you can mirror your iPhone to your Mac to have it on the side and do different things there. I once even bought from Amazon a little sticky stand. You can put it on the back of your MacBook, and the part will come out, and it's a MagSafe holder. You put your phone right there, so you can do that if you want, but you can just do it through here if you want to, whatever. That's an option. Now, with the iMac being an all-in-one, of course, there is a built-in camera. It is a 12 megapixel camera with center stage. I do have center stage on my iPad mini 6th generation. It is pretty cool, but I get basically zero use out of it. I don't do FaceTime with anybody. I don't know what other apps it'll be compatible with that I can use it for. But center stage is pretty cool. However, for an all-in-one computer, for an iMac, 12 megapixels is not a lot of megapixels for a camera, in my opinion. Apple might do something internally with the software to make the video image look better, but it's just like an iPhone front-facing camera or any other smartphone front-facing camera. It's not going to be as good as the rear camera, of course. Now, going forward from there, you will have, of course, the Apple Intelligence. As I said earlier, you have the Apple Intelligence for all these devices going forward. And this is where things get tricky for me personally, because I can't use a Mac for my job. They give me one to use that's a Windows laptop, a really crappy one. And these intelligent features are really only for specific people who use Apple devices all day, every day, who gets multiple emails to have the intelligence kind of summarize your emails, who needs to do specific things with photos, changing and, describing photos or creating emojis or whatever. Using like ChatGPT built in to make your responses for emails a bit more professional. I don't get to use these things from a day to day as much as I want to. Maybe in the future I can get to, but it's really for a niche type of person. So number one, if you already have an Apple product, you need to ask yourself, is upgrading to a new one worth it for the Apple Intelligence, or are the differences in specs between whatever chip processor you have compared to the M4 processor? And we'll go over that more as we continue. Now, of course, with the iMac, you do have your 24-inch display. Of course, it's their Retina display, 4K thing, whatever. As I said, the built-in camera on the top. You have a keyboard and mouse included. One thing I want to talk about with the iMac specifically is the ports on the back of it that you can connect. Now with the iMacs, they typically make two different versions. One will have, I believe, 2 Thunderbolt ports in the back, and one will have 4. Of course, the one with the 4 Thunderbolt ports will not only cost more for the ports, but I think there's also a slight difference in performance or hard drive space in the 4-port version. We'll go over that when we compare the models. So there's not much else to say about the iMac so far until we continue with the other devices and compare them all as a whole. But the second device, and it's something that I would probably get personally, and by that I mean for my needs and my use and what I already have, I would probably go for the Mac Mini. Was the second device that they announced. The Mac Mini is very interesting because I have the M1 Mac Mini that came out back in 2020, so about 4 years old. And to this day, it is still an amazing computer. I use it as often as I can. It is able to handle a few tasks that I need it for. I do play some very minimum games on there. Not too much. I have a PlayStation to play my games on. I do most of my video editing. I would say 98% of my video editing is done on my Mac Mini because I have a 2-monitor setup, so it's easier for me to use that. And the chip still runs. It boots up very quickly. I turn on the power button and it's on the home screen in like 5 seconds. So still a very great device for the most part. But if you don't have a Mac and you want to get a Mac Mini, I'm going to tell you why you should go for the new one or any of the recent Mac Minis and why you shouldn't, okay? So before I do that, we'll go over the quick specs of the Mac Mini. The new Mac Mini is so much more smaller than the old one. I was impressed by the size difference. The fact that it can put all this power into this small device is amazing. But of course, the Mac Mini is their budget model. You may not get the same performance as some of the higher ones, especially the one that we will talk about after the Mac Mini. But with the Mac Mini, of course, with the new M4 chip, you will have more capabilities for your productivity, your creativity, whether you're trying to game, create music, edit videos, do some photo editing. You will have more capabilities with the new M4, just being faster and handling different activities and different tasks much quickly. More specifically for me, video editing, when I export a video, it could take some time to export certain videos depending on how long the video is, how large that file is. So of course you want to have that speed to try to quicken, make that process faster. Of course, the Apple Intelligence, as I said on the previous one. Here you got some gaming with the M4. Now here's where things get really interesting because I don't think the iMac has the option to upgrade from an M4 chip to an M4 Pro, whereas the Mac Mini does give you that option. And of course the M4 Pro will cost a lot more than the base M4, and we'll go over that at the end when we go and compare all the models. But with the M4 Pro, it is supposed to have even better performance when it comes to things like gaming. Capcom has their Resident Evil games on Apple now, so you can play Resident Evil 4, 7, and 8. I think 2 and 3 might be there or they're on their way, something like that. Of course, with better performance for your video editing, video exporting, that kind of thing. I tried Resident Evil 7 on my M1 MacBook Air, and aside from some texture pop-ins here and there, it runs very well for my device. Granted, I have a PlayStation for my games anyway, but if you want that option, sure. So you need to ask yourself, what kind of user are you, and is it worth spending the extra money for the Pro chip as compared to the base model chip? And I don't think it's for everybody. Again, it's really for people who are doing those extra amazing tasks, whether you're trying to edit the next Avengers movie or you want to play the best game out there. But of course, if you're going to game on a computer, you're better off gaming on a PC over a Mac anyway. And that's me not being a PC gamer or a PC guy at all. So imagine that. Now, with the Mac Mini, the difference between the older models and the new one is the ports. Now, mine, of course, has the obvious HDMI, Ethernet port, and the power cable port, but it also has two USB-A ports and two Thunderbolt ports in the back. For those of you who don't know, Thunderbolt is like Apple's version of USB-C that's meant for not only charging devices, but also connecting various devices like, for example, an external hard drive or whatever else you can connect through Thunderbolt. I don't know, maybe another monitor. Some devices do allow a monitor to connect through a USB-C or Thunderbolt port as well. But with the new Mac Mini, you will be getting 4 Thunderbolt ports in the back, from what I remember, as well as 2 additional ones in the front. So that is giving you more options to connect more accessories to your device. Now, I do know that the new Mac Mini is smaller than the old one, but I think it is a bit thicker than the old one. So, make it smaller for your desk, but thicker so it can fit all the parts that it needs to fit for the performance and everything. So upon looking a bit more, scratch that, is actually 3 Thunderbolts in the back and 2 in the front, so 5 total rather than 6, but 5 is still good. If you also need more, you can add like a USB hub to add more connectivity there, but still a lot of ports that you can use for your device. Now, there isn't much else to talk about this product right now. Of course, as I said previously, the Apple Intelligence will be in there for all these devices, depending on what you need it for or if you're going to get use out of it. But I will say I would only go for a Mac Mini, the new one, if you already have certain things at home that you would need for the Mac Mini. For example, it is a lot cheaper. The base model is $599. And that's because you don't get a monitor included. You don't get a keyboard and mouse included. So you can use what you already have if you already have a keyboard and mouse and monitor at home. But if you don't have any keyboard or mouse or monitor, if you're trying to get a new computer from scratch and you're new to computer buying, you may not want to get a Mac Mini because the price you're going to pay for the accessories, the monitor and the keyboard, the mouse, especially if you're trying to go for the better products, a better monitor, a 4K monitor, if you want an Apple keyboard and mouse, the price of everything together might be equivalent to the iMac or the next product that we will talk about, which is the MacBook. I have the Apple keyboard and mouse. I have the black one of each. Of course, the keyboard is, I believe, $100 on its own. $150 if you buy the one with the Touch ID included. The Apple mouse, the white mouse, I believe is $70 to $80. The black one is $100. Apple, why is the black mouse more expensive than the white mouse? I bought mine pre-owned for $100 from Best Buy 4 years ago, and it's still about $100. And it still has Lightning. Apple, what's going on? So you could, of course, use any other type of keyboard and mouse, like whether it's Logitech or Razer or Amazon Basics. But if you are using an Apple computer, you are going to want an Apple accessory, an Apple mouse and keyboard, because of those Apple specific commands that you want to use those shortcuts for. Yes, you can do it with Windows. It's just a bit different, but I like to keep everything together in one family, So before going over all the devices as a whole, we have one more device to talk about, and I believe it's the more complicated one, and that is the new MacBook Pro. Now, the MacBook Pro, I think it doesn't matter if you get the base model chip on this MacBook or the 2 additional ones, which is the M4 Max and the M4 Pro. The MacBook Pro, in my opinion, is always going to be for that pro level user for various reasons. Now, as I said over here, I'll go back to that first view here. You will have the option to get a M4 chip for your MacBook Pro, which I believe starts at about $1,599, so $1,600 and some money, whatever. You have M4 Pro and M4 Max. Again, those Max chips and the Pro ones are really for those people who need to do like the next Avengers editing or something, making the next movie, that kind of thing. You can get by with other softwares too and other, lower level chips. Even with video editing, if you're going to use Final Cut Pro, you are going to want those higher end chips to make Final Cut Pro much better. I have tried Final Cut Pro on an M1 model. It worked pretty well. I just didn't understand the software too much to stick with it. And of course, Final Cut Pro is like $300, whereas I use iMovie sometimes, which is free, or LumaFusion, which is $30, which I might use LumaFusion for this video anyway. But going on forward, of course, you have the different colors. I believe it's a silver and the black one, or space gray, whatever they call it. And of course, with the chips, you do have the different improvements in speed. It's 3.4 times faster than what the M1, and 3 times faster than the Pro, 3.5 times faster than the Max. You do have the next level performance for gaming. Again, if you're gonna game on the Mac, which you probably wouldn't, but if you are, you might get better gaming performance. You will get better gaming performance as compared to an M1 chip or a base model M4 chip. But again, when I played Resident Evil on my M1 Mac Mini, MacBook Air, it really didn't struggle that much. A couple of texture pop-ins here and there, and that was it. It really wasn't that bad. Again, Apple Intelligence, privacy features and everything. With the new MacBook, you do have different ports included, as well as like a 24-hour battery life. Supposedly, according to Apple, of course, battery life does depend on what your tasks are, what you're doing. I want to go into a page here, if I can find it, where it shows the different ports available on the MacBook Pro, because you do have a few Thunderbolt ports on each side, as well as a SD card reader, I believe. So let me see if I'm trying to find it here. So you do get a MagSafe charger, you get two Thunderbolt 4 ports, and a 3.5mm headphone jack on one side. The other side, you do have a additional Thunderbolt port, so 3 in total, like the Mac Mini, plus your HDMI if you want to connect it to a monitor, and a SD card reader. Now, one thing that's interesting is my M1 MacBook Air can only display to one external monitor, so I can have the MacBook as one screen and a monitor as another one, but I can't buy a docking station and have it close and use it on my 2 monitor setup. With the new MacBook Pro, you can use your MacBook on 2 external monitors and have it closed as long as you have a keyboard and mouse, or you can have it open and have 3 screens if you need that. So 2 monitors and 1 Mac screen open if you need that. I don't know who would need that, but again, these are for the pros out there who want to be, very pro level. So I'm gonna do some comparisons here. If I can get back to that page here. 1 second. So I can compare 3 different devices at a time. So we're gonna do the iMac M4 with the 4 ports in the back. We're gonna do the base model Mac Mini, if I can find it here. Where is there? Mac Mini M4, and then we're gonna do the MacBook Pro. We'll go with the 14-inch M4. So you'll get a couple of examples there. Now, here's where things are more about the cost, okay? As I said before, the Mac Mini does not come with a monitor or keyboard or a mouse. You have to buy those things separately. So if you already have those things and you don't need all the major specs and all the crazy stuff, go with the Mac Mini. It's only $599. If you have a device you can trade in, like an old MacBook or even an old laptop, Apple does take non-Apple branded stuff for trade-in. You'll probably get less money, but trade-in is tricky. You got to pay the full price for your product, and then the trade-in credit goes back on like a gift card or something. But if you're going to buy out of pocket, just full price in one purchase, the Mac Mini is the cheapest, and you do get the performance of the M4 chip. Now, when it comes to the comparisons, again, as I said previously, the iMac does not have any other option for the chip rather than the base M4. The Mac Mini does have M4 and M4 Pro, and the MacBook Pro has M4, M4 Pro, and M4 Max. All you pros out there and all your pro wallets out there. Now, this might be a different language for those who are not familiar with tech specs, but the iMac has a 10-core CPU, whereas the Mini and the MacBook has up to 14 core for the Mini and 10 core for the Pro. What that means is most likely the M4 Pro Mac Mini will have a 14 core, whereas the base model M4 Mac Mini might be a 10 core like the iMac. And then with the MacBook, of course, the 10 core will be base model M4 chip, and then you'll probably have, I want to say, 14 core CPU with the M4 Pro, and then much more for the M4 Max. Same thing with the GPU, 10 core GPU for the iMac, and then of course with the Mac Mini, I'm assuming it's a 10 core for the M4 chip and a 20 core for the M4 Pro chip, which means 10 core for the MacBook Pro, 20 core for the MacBook Pro M4 Pro chip, and then probably 30 core for the Max, the MacBook Pro M4 Max. Complicated, I know, just rewatch that part if you need to, and it'll make sense. Internal memory, I believe that's just like your RAM. You can get up to 32 gigabytes of RAM on the iMac, up to 64 on the Mini, and 32 base model MacBook. 32 gigabytes is fine for RAM. That's actually a lot for a computer, in my opinion. And of course, storage space. You can have up to 2 terabytes on the iMac, up to 8 terabytes on the Mini, and then up to 2 terabytes on the Pro. This is why I think also the Mini is a better option compared to at least the iMac, is because while you do have to buy a monitor and keyboard and mouse, but if you already have one, if you are going to pay the extra money for increased memory or increased storage, you have more options with the Mac Mini as you do with the iMac, but of course that is going to cost a lot more money. That's like approaching Tony Stark level of money, right? But I keep mentioning Marvel. I'm going to Disney this weekend, so that's why I keep mentioning Marvel. But of course, you don't need to have a battery life on the 2 other desktops because they plug in their desktops. But the MacBook is claiming 24 hours of battery life. The MacBook also has a Touch ID. Mac Mini does not, unless you buy the keyboard with the Touch ID. And the iMac does have a keyboard included with the Touch ID. So, with that being said so far, you do have some differences here and there. Now, as I said before, I would go for a Mac Mini myself because I already have an M1 Mac Mini, and I will compare the two as well between mine and the new one to see what the differences are, if it is worth an upgrade. And if I trade mine in, I can get the new one for maybe $400-ish, maybe a little bit less, rather than the full $600 type of thing. So I'll be saving money that way if I do. I want to go into the higher end model of these products, at least the MacBook Pro, M4 Pro and Pro Max. So where are we at here? So I was kind of close with the GPU and CPU. The M4 Max will get up to 16 core CPU and a 40 core GPU. I said 30 previously, but it's a 40 core GPU. Holy crap. But wow, 128 gigabytes of RAM, of memory. That's a lot for a computer. And that's going to make a MacBook, if it's not built properly by Apple, whether it's going to be lack of vents for the air to fly out or that, jet noise that's going to make, like a fighter jet flying, 8 terabytes of storage. I don't know who needs all that space. I have iCloud anyway, but, there's, of course, difference, iCloud and internal, whatever. But that's a lot of specs for a laptop, and I'm curious of what the cost is for that one. I want to pre-order I'm not gonna buy it, so I'm gonna see how much it costs for the maxed out Pro. Here we got M4 Max. We're gonna do. Let me get my mouse here. Select this one. This is gonna be interesting. Standard display. You do have 2 options for display on the MacBook. I forgot to mention you have a standard or a nano texture display, which is an additional $150. I don't know the difference between the regular and the nano texture. Probably don't even need it. We're gonna do M4 Max with maximum RAM, maximum storage space. Here you have 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes, 4 and 8 terabytes. Don't need to install these products here. That's a $7,200 laptop for the Pro with all the different specs. Those are really used for like companies who are like, let's say a film company, and they have like that budget to buy these products. That's what it's really for. And they probably use desktops anyway, but that's a lot for a laptop. So let me get out of this page and go back because I want to go over like at least my recommendation for new users and returning users. Now, let me find the MacBook Pro. I want to see the base price of a MacBook Pro with the M4 chip. I think it's like $1,500. Let's go for 14-inch screen. We're going to go with the M4. We're not going to do anything extra to it. We'll do standard display, 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than enough. 5 total gigabytes of storage is okay. A terabyte would be better, but we're going to go base model. A 70-watt power adapter rather than paying extra for the higher wattage. Don't need, that's already there. So that's about a $1,600 computer. Now, just for comparison, this is an M1 MacBook Air, and some months ago, it was on sale at Walmart and Best Buy, and I think Amazon for like $600 or so. Basically the same price as a Mac Mini. And again, it may be 4 years old for the chip, but it runs very well, very fast. Probably got my way. But this was only a $700 laptop, and I can't imagine it being close to $1,000 anymore because it's an M1 and it's 4 years old, and it was already on sale for like $700, $600. So if you want to get a laptop, you want something that you can use at home and something you could take with you on the go, maybe not go with the M4 MacBook Pro or any kind of MacBook Pro unless you want those pro features for the base model and you can pay $1,600. By all means, if you have that money, you're a baller, or if you can afford the maxed out MacBook, sure. But let me go into the Mac Mini and show you the pre-order on that one too. With the Mac Mini, we're gonna do base model Mac Mini. You're gonna just skip all the other stuff. 16 gigs of RAM is pretty good. I think my Mac Mini has between 8 and 12 gigabytes of RAM. Is one of those. I'm not sure if it's the 16 or not. 256 storage. I think my Mac Mini is also 256 gigabytes of storage, which again you probably have better. You have more use with a higher internal storage, but you can buy an external drive. This is a 2 terabyte drive from Samsung. It costs $80, whereas upgrading here is $200 to go from 256 to 512. So you gotta ask yourself, do you want to pay $200 to get 512 internal gigabytes of storage, or do you want to pay $80 for a 2 terabyte drive? This holds just more than files, okay? I downloaded my Resident Evil 7 to this drive, so it's not taking up all that space on my internal, and I can play it off this drive, no problem. And of course, USB-C, Thunderbolt, so it'll work. So we're not gonna do the increased storage. You just put it all on the external drive, except iMovie. iMovie doesn't do that because iMovie is stupid, but moving on. Gigabit Ethernet built in. I don't think anyone needs 10 gigabit Ethernet unless you're one of those bigger companies that can afford that and has that included. So with that being said, you are going for the $600 before taxes. You can pay roughly $50 a month for a 12-month plan if you have an Apple credit card, or you can apply for Apple credit, or you can go to Klarna or Afterpay or Affirm and do a payment plan on those websites and basically pay the same amount overall. It's not going to give you any interest, except Affirm does give you interest charges, whereas Afterpay and Klarna doesn't. So I know it's been a long video, longer than normal. I have a lot to edit with this video. I will say, if you don't have, if you have a keyboard and mouse, or you're gonna get one and you have a good monitor, you're gonna get a good monitor, the Mac Mini is the best option for a consumer. If you're a regular consumer, you just want a really good computer. Again, I use my Mac Mini almost every day. I've had it for 4 years now. It was the first Mac computer I ever owned. That worked very well. It was my video editing product. Before that, I had an iPad Pro, and when I got the Mac Mini, it was a game changer. Before I do end this video, I want to go over the iMac as an option, and I will compare the two, my Mac Mini and the new Mac Mini. So with the iMac, iMac starts at $14.99. If we just do the same base model specs, you will start at $14.99, at least for the 4-port iMac. Is that the 4-port? Yeah. So again, Mac Mini is $600, and then how much is the monitor you're gonna use? I have a good Samsung one that cost me $325 on sale. I also have the Sony InZone M9, which is a $1,000 monitor, but I paid $500 for it on. It was an open box from Best Buy, and it was on sale that weekend, so I had an additional discount. So it's a really good 4K Samsung monitor, which I was using for a while. That's about $325, $350. So you're paying $900 and something dollars. Keyboard is another $100 for Apple, so that's $1,000. Mouse another $80, almost $1,200. So you're paying a bit less with the Mac Mini and the peripherals rather than the iMac. You're saving about $200 or more depending on what device, what accessories you get, what peripherals you get. If you get it on sale or used or non-Apple branded, you are saving more money that way. But with the iMac, if you say, hey, it's not that much difference between the Mini and the peripherals and the iMac, and you'd rather just have the all-in-one already ready to go out the box, then by all means, you get the iMac. You get the option of different colors too. You get the fun colors like the blue and the purple, whereas the Mac Mini is just the base ugly silver one. So I know, very complicated, right? So last thing before I go is I'm going to compare the Mac Mini M4 to my Mac Mini, which is an M1. And this will help me decide if I'm going to upgrade to a Mac Mini M4 or not. And not tell my girlfriend after I do it so she doesn't get mad at me. Now, I believe the... can I just drop the Mac Mini M4 to a base model or no? No, I cannot. So my Mac Mini does have an 8-core CPU and an 8-core GPU. whereas the M4 Mac Mini has up to 14 CPU and up to 20 GPU. But again, that is for the Pro model chip, I believe. The smaller one will probably have similar or slightly more, maybe like a 10 and 10 rather than a 8 and 8. Let me actually compare it to the iMac. Maybe that one will help me see it for sure. iMac M4. What are the 2 ports for the M4? So yeah, base model M4 will be equivalent for the CPU and GPU if I do get that option. As for RAM, I don't know what mine has. I have it back home. I'm again on vacation, but I want to say the RAM will be about the same. I do have the 256 gigabyte model, I believe. So that'll be the same as well. Here's where things will get a bit more of what the difference is, if there are any. M1 chip. Here we go. M4 chip has a 10 core rather than the 8 core on my M1 chip. They both have a 4 performance core, and the new M4 chip has a 6 efficiency cores, whereas mine has 4 efficiency cores. I don't know what that means. That's not making sense to me at all. But the M4 base model will have a 10 core GPU. As I did say, it'll be slightly better than my current M1 chip. Going on from there, the hardware accelerated. Both have the H.264, the HEVC video decode engine. The new one will allow me to do ProRes and ProRAW video decoding or whatever. I do sometimes record in ProRes, or I'm planning to record more in ProRes for different projects, but I don't do it enough to justify upgrading yet, I don't think. Other than that, these are the pros, where mine doesn't have a pro option. Is mine compatible with Apple Intelligence? I think it is, but it won't be as good as on the M4. So what I'm really seeing here is, if I decide to upgrade to the M4 Mac Mini base model, I'm getting slightly better performance, which again, mine runs great. It's fast and efficient for me. However, it will allow me to do a bit more with ProRes and ProRAW photos, which again, I don't use them as often, so maybe I can still play with that on my model of my computer. But the only difference is I lose a port, because I have 4 ports in the back of mine, 2 USB A's and 2 Thunderbolts. I use all 4 of it, one of which has a USB A port adapter. So essentially, I take one of my USB A ports and turn it into 4. So in total, I have 5 USB A ports and 2 Thunderbolt ports that I use, whereas this one will only give me 5 Thunderbolt ports unless I get one of those USB hubs, is what I'm saying. I also have one of these for my MacBook, and I have a similar one for my Mac Mini that plugs right in as well. It gives you a SD card reader, 2 USB A's, a USB-C, and an HDMI if you need it. So I don't think the upgrade is enough for me to go with the Mac Mini, with the exception of if I trade mine in, then yes, I'll have a shot to get a Mac Mini for cheaper. But I don't think those specs are worth upgrading for me. If I do upgrade, it'll be for a video review and to have some slightly better performance with my stuff. But again, it's not that big of an upgrade. It really isn't for me. But final thoughts. If you already have an Apple device, whether it's an M1 chip or M2, whatever, you probably have an M1 chip. You don't need to spend the extra money for a new device. You don't. They still get the updates. It's still running good, running fast and strong. If you have a desktop, like a Mac Mini, you want to get a new one, you may not need to get a new one. If you're not doing ProRAW or ProRes, you're probably not going to need one. If you are brand new to buying a computer and you need to buy you want to buy a Mac, you can't buy the older chips on Apple. They discontinue them on their websites. You got to buy them on third party like Amazon or something. I would say go with the iMac or the Mac Mini, because Mac Mini, if you want the cheapest option and you have peripherals. If you have none of those things and you want to buy just one ready to go, the price between the iMac and the base model MacBook Pro is not that different. Maybe it's another $200. Go with the Pro, base model Pro. You'll have a laptop you can take with you on the go. You can use it at home. When you eventually buy a monitor or two, you can plug your MacBook Pro into both monitors and have that display there. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. Don't buy the maxed out of any of these if you don't need it. If you want to have a budget product and you already have peripherals like a monitor and keyboard, get the base model Mac Mini. If you don't, you can be fine with the base model iMac or the base model MacBook Pro. They are very close in price. You can trade in any other computer you have and put it towards that. And that's going to be it for my really long and complicated video as I'm on vacation. So thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about this video overall. Was it overly complicated? I think it was. Apple makes things very complicated. Let me clear this out. Apple makes things very complicated with their releases and their products. So hopefully I help make a bit more sense to you guys here. And let me know if you want me to buy one of these. Maybe I will get the M4 MacBook Mini just for the slight difference, the slight improvement in performance, and review it for you guys and unbox it. But for now, I'm going to enjoy my vacation. I'm going to enjoy the beach behind me. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm Anthony Olan. Happy Halloween and peace out for now. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys.